Now with today's economy, more deaf businesses are being established and growing, which means our economy power is becoming stronger and stronger and growing. So starting now, this is amazing. I can't believe it's been a year since MELMIRA took off. We still remember that moment from Convo when they asked me if I wanted to start my own show. I looked at them and I was scared, but inside I was like, yes, and I went ahead. It's been a great journey, and this is the million-dollar question I get asked often, and I think it's important to remain transparent with you all. Many people don't realize MELMIRA is not my full-time job. Not yet, but hopefully. Convo and DPAN are the biggest supporters of MELMIRA, making it possible for me to do this show. My full-time job is working with Convo as an outreach strategist, and I have some time weekly to focus on MELMIRA. For me, it feels natural working with Convo, and the reason for that is that they saw my vision and wanted to get going with the media. They encouraged me to pursue something outside of Convo, and at the same time, they saw what I could bring to the company in terms of connecting and growing their audiences. So I'm here to get real with Leila Hanaumi. Leila is a brand communication director for Convo. I'm ready to ask her some questions about what the deaf ecosystem really is. What is that? And what's Convo's role within our community? I've been seeing this, but do people understand what the deaf ecosystem really is? Because I don't think so. With the deaf community and the deaf ecosystem, I always ask people this: what's the difference? Our community is full of resources, and the ecosystem is, it's a resource too, but it's also an investment into businesses in order to thrive. Yeah, that. Money and resources. That's a key term. For deaf ecosystem, you must have money and resources to invest. It's a must. The community tends to be deaf institutes because that's the heart to bring communities together. That's where deaf children go, which means their families will get together and their job opportunities, teachers, and they're building and expanding organizations and services to support the growth. It tends to be the institutes, but not always. Sometimes there are places and events such as deaf clubs. Services, deaf businesses are starting up, that's the community. Getting together for events and socializing, that's the community. But how can we advance that? The ecosystem. It requires us investing our money. All of us get some kind of money, like monthly payments, but where does that money go? It tends to go outside of the ecosystem and community, like with our needs. Clothes, food, gifts, and so on. And they tend to go out there to the deaf businesses. It's so hard for the community to really maintain its ecosystem to grow resources to support each other. It's hard. Now, today, more deaf businesses are establishing and growing, which means our economy power is becoming stronger and stronger, starting now. True biz. We can see that our dollars are staying in the community longer. Designers, merchandisers. I remember a while back, Target and Old Navy had those cute I love you shirts in sign language, and many deaf people bought them thinking they were really cool, but maybe we shouldn't do that. You're not using the deaf ecosystem, and you're not supporting the deaf ecosystem. You're supporting hearing corporations, and they're profiting money off of our culture. Don't do it. There are many deaf people who design I love you or sign language clothing. Use that instead. Even though, yes, those may cost more than the hearing corporations, yeah, how could you justify the cost? But many of us are looking to save money, so in the long run, what do you think? It's a challenge. I understand. It's like you're stuck in a situation where deaf people are often underemployed or unemployed. So now, supporting the deaf businesses, the inequality is not fair. I understand that, but start small. It's the same concept as supporting local businesses in general. People tend to support local businesses because why would you go to your local coffee shop over Starbucks? Why? There are many reasons for that. It's beneficial. You know who those people are and you know who works there. Local businesses tend to be a part of the community and you give back to them. Local schools will need sponsors for their events, for sports, and you usually see those local businesses donating money to maintain that ecosystem. That elevates the town's economy while the big corporations are all over the place. It's It's the same concept where local businesses require a little more money because they don't have large factories to make things or use cheap materials to make things. It tends to be full of smaller teams who make the products. It's the same with deaf businesses, where we have small teams who are self-made with everything. So my labor has increased with time spent on each thing. In exchange, you know where your money is spent and you get things, you get services, and you know who they are and you can feel more connected with them. You can give them feedback and you can directly impact them. And when you keep buying things over and over, it will encourage them to expand their business, creating job opportunities that maybe could be for you or for friends or future children. Now they sacrifice a bit by spending more, and eventually they'll have job opportunities for our kids' future. The community tends to be unique because when it comes to school events, you would need sponsorships. And usually that's VRS companies. Always. Maybe not all, but you're right, always. Always. So now we're starting to see deaf businesses being sponsors, and that's what we want to push for. It's the same concept with local businesses for local schools. Like in Austin, when it comes to any event, there's a huge list of local businesses being sponsors. That's in general for hearing people. For deaf businesses, where's the economy? VRS. That's the one. Often Convo would love to sponsor everything in our community, but I literally can't compete with that financially from other VRS companies. Like we give 3%, they'll give 80%. We can't, but we try to make contributions when we can. But we'd love to see people be like, oh, I see, and that's why we encourage Deaf Ecosystem by using our platforms. We use our creativity, our marketing team, our people, our networks to promote other deaf businesses. We provide a Deaf Ecosystem list to encourage people to use it. Now we see other deaf businesses showing up, and our goal is to create many of Convo's, not necessarily VRS, but different businesses' names lined up. So now the deaf community needs an economy to support. We rely on VRS, but that's it. We have so many options. If you go to an event and you open up a book, you can see a deaf business being a sponsor. That would be amazing. I never saw that growing up, so that's the goal. With VRS companies, many people know Convo is one of the leading organizations with a deaf ecosystem because of our list and so on. I do think it's interesting that Convo is so visible in our community, yet people don't realize how small our company really is. Yeah, the ironic part is Convo can be two things at the same time. For one, we're actually one of the world's largest deaf-owned companies. We have over 300 employees. So I can always remind people if they feel like thinking, can a deaf person set up a company and be the CEO to run it and create job opportunities for over 300 people? Absolutely. We have that company, Convo. And at the same time, Convo is a small VRS provider, so both at the same time. Maybe one of the smallest. Really, you're right. The largest is Sorensen. It's 80% of the VRS market, meaning all who use VRS services, 80% of those are Sorensen users. The second largest is Purple ZVRS, which is about 17%. And then there's us, Convo, which is 3%. So globally, it's small, very small. So you really have to see the big picture and be like, oh, it's really smaller than the others, but we've been really visible. I think people responded to Convo's messages about believing in the vision, and they feel connected because we're deaf too. So we speak the same language, we share the same experience, and we have empathy. It really starts with using Convo. Convo has an app, and it's free. You can download it. That's all it takes. Start with using Convo, and I understand people are used to having hardware already installed for many years, and they're used to it, but they say, I love Convo, and I support Convo. Really, that's not enough. We need the community to actually take action by starting to use our services and be mindful with what we choose, where our money goes, which service do we choose, who do I talk about it to? All of us have individual power, and as a team, we can make a change together. Well, I've been seeing what Convo's been doing, and I respect Convo for everything they do. I thought it was bigger until I joined the team. And I love Convo's values, goals, and we share the same feelings, but 3%, that's all. Yet Convo's done everything for our community. Wow. Yeah, that's exactly why deaf people need to support the deaf ecosystem, which means supporting deaf businesses in general, not just Convo. There are many businesses out there that need support. That's the kind of experience the community will get because deaf business owners get it. They run a deaf business. In general, setting up a business is tough. It's very, very tough. Plus, them being deaf means communication barriers and they're being left behind with information. It's hard. So when there's a time when a deaf business owner made it by founding a successful business, people will believe in it. It'll create a better experience overall for us as a community. It'll change our experience as a deaf person through life. It will. It's just that we need to support and support as much as we can. And they'll make that future happen for us. People don't mind supporting the deaf ecosystem, sure, but where to start? That I understand. We have a Deaf Ecosystem directory. It's a free resource available in our database. Yeah. We will need to update the list. I definitely want to expand that in the future. So start with that and find which deaf businesses are near you. Often people don't know they had deaf businesses near them. Oh, there it is. Yeah, like it's 5 miles from me. And they tend to, well, deaf businesses tend not to do it yet, but they use brick and mortar and lease a place. It tends to be from home. So it's easily overlooked. So it tends to start with a directory, look at it and find them. Check out their website and information. Maybe some of them are not there as equally as other big businesses. They don't have the things they need. So give feedback and invest. Yeah, start buying one by one. It'll grow over time. I want them all to watch right now, those who are watching this conversation, and realize that they're a big part of the deaf ecosystem. Maybe they don't realize it, but they are a part of it. And the power is in their hands to get the deaf ecosystem going, to grow and expand with a variety of resources, right? Right. Deaf ecosystem. Let's expand it.